The night he woke up, it was a cold, quiet night. Ethan was sleeping in his small apartment on the 5th floor. He lived alone. Well, almost alone. He had a roommate, but she was not human. She was an alien. Her name was Lunari. She had come to Earth 6 months ago as part of a peaceful exchange program. Ethan had agreed to share his apartment with her to help her learn about human life. At first, things were awkward. She didn't understand human food, jokes, or even beds. But over time, they got used to each other. Ethan thought she was strange, but kind, quiet, but smart, and very beautiful in a mysterious alien way. Her skin was soft and blue. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the dark. Her eyes were large and full of secrets. That night, something strange happened. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. He couldn't move. Something was pressing down on his chest. For a second, he thought he was having a nightmare. But no. Someone was sitting on top of him. It was Lunari. Her knees were on either side of his body. Her hands were on his shoulders. Her glowing eyes stared into his. Lunari? Ethan whispered, confused. "What are you doing?" Her voice was shaking. "I need something now." Ethan blinked. What? She didn't answer. Her head turned quickly, looking around the dark room like she was afraid someone was watching. "You need to stay quiet," she whispered. "They're listening." Ethan tried to sit up, but she pushed him gently back down. "Please," she said, "don't move. I don't have time to explain. I need your help." His heart was beating fast. "Help with what?" She leaned down and said in a soft, urgent voice, "Something I hid. I think it's waking up." Ethan frowned. "What did you hide?" But Lunari stood up and rushed toward the wall. She placed her hand flat against it, and to his shock, a small panel slid open. Behind it was a glowing pod. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady, with a greenish light. Ethan sat up, still stunned. "That's been there the whole time?" Lunari nodded. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Yes. I brought it with me when I came to Earth. I told no one, not even your government." "Why?" he asked. "Because they would take it," she said, "or destroy it." Ethan got up and walked toward her. The pod was about the size of a basketball, covered in strange markings. It was alive. He could feel it. "What's inside it?" he asked. She looked down, her voice soft. "Something I lost a long time ago." He saw a tear fall from her cheek. Then she turned to him. "But now it's waking up. And I don't know what will happen when it does." Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. A loud buzzing sound filled the air. The pod glowed brighter. "Is this safe?" Ethan asked, stepping back. "I don't know," Lunari whispered. "But I have to protect it." Before Ethan could speak again, there was a loud knock at the door. Bang, bang, bang. Both of them froze. Lunari's eyes widened in fear. "They found me." Ethan looked at her. "Who?" She grabbed his hand. "We have to hide the pod." "But what's going on?" he asked. "There's no time," she said. "Please, trust me." The door shook again, this time harder. Whoever was outside was not just knocking anymore. Lunari ran to a closet and carefully placed the pod inside a box of clothes. She touched a small crystal to it, and the light vanished. The room fell into silence. Then the door broke open. A man stepped in, dressed in a black coat. His eyes were dark and his face looked cold, almost not human. Lunari stepped in front of Ethan. "You don't belong here," she told the man. He said nothing. He just stared at them both, and then turned his eyes toward the wall where the pod had been. Ethan's chest tightened. Who was this man? Why was he after Lunari? What was inside that pod? He didn't know the answers. But he was sure of one thing now. His alien roommate had secrets. And those secrets were dangerous. The thing she hid inside the wall, the man in black didn't speak. He didn't move fast, but every step he took felt heavy, dangerous. Ethan stood behind Lunari, frozen. The man's eyes slowly scanned the room, stopping near the wall panel. Lunari stayed calm, but her fingers glowed faint blue. She was ready to fight. Then the man finally spoke. "You broke the rules, Lunari." His voice was smooth but cold, like steel. "I followed protocol," she replied. "I requested asylum. I stayed hidden." He tilted his head. "You weren't supposed to bring it with you," Ethan whispered. "What is it?" The man ignored him. Lunari stepped forward. "You don't belong here. Leave now." He gave a small smile. "I don't need to fight you. I only need what's behind the wall." Suddenly the pod, hidden in the closet, let out a small pulse. A faint hum passed through the room like a wave. The man's eyes widened. "It's activated." Lunari moved fast. She grabbed Ethan's wrist and pulled him toward the window. "We can't stay," she said. "We need to run." Ethan looked at her like she was crazy. "That guy just kicked down the door. He'll follow us." "I know," she said, "but I can't let him take the pod." She jumped out the window. Ethan stared. "Wait, what?" "Then," she yelled, "jump." He had no choice. They landed on the soft grass behind the building. Lunari rolled and stood up fast. Ethan groaned and followed, limping slightly. "What is inside that thing?" he asked again. She looked at him. Her eyes were different now. No longer scared. They burned with something deep. "It's a memory," she said. "But not just mine. Yours too." Ethan blinked. "What?" "You were chosen, Ethan. Long ago. Even before we met." They ran through the dark streets as alarms echoed in the distance. Ethan kept glancing back. "Why would I be chosen?" Lunari didn't answer at first. Then she said softly, "Because the thing in that pod remembers you." That sentence hit him like a punch. "Wait, you mean the pod is alive?" Lunari nodded. "Yes, and it knows your face." They reached an old parking garage and hid behind a broken wall. Lunari pulled out a small round device. It projected a shimmering map. "He'll track the pod's energy," she said. "We need to keep moving, but before we do, I need to show you something." She pulled out a tiny metal shard, barely the size of a coin. "What's that?" Ethan asked. "A memory crystal," Lunari whispered. "One that belongs to you." She pressed it to Ethan's forehead. Suddenly, images exploded inside his mind. A battlefield, aliens screaming, a child being carried through smoke and fire. Then, a hand reaching for help. Ethan saw his own face, but much younger, maybe just a baby. He stumbled back. "That was me?" Lunari nodded. "You were saved by one of us, a warrior. She didn't survive, but before she died, she placed a link inside you, so that one day, we would meet again." Ethan sat down, shaking. "This is insane." "No," Lunari said. "This is your past. And now, your future." He looked up at her. "What's inside that pod?" Lunari took a deep breath. "Something that can change everything. A being that connects both our worlds. A life that must be protected, even if it costs us everything." At that moment, a loud crash echoed through the garage. The man in black had found them, and this time, he wasn't alone. Alien memories. She tried to forget. They ran again. Lunari and Ethan escaped through the back of the parking garage. The strange man in black was close behind. His eyes glowed now, like fire in the dark. But Lunari didn't stop. She held Ethan's eye, hand tight. They found an old abandoned subway station. Broken, rusted, silent. Lunari led Ethan inside and locked the heavy door behind them. Her hands shook, but her face stayed strong. "This place is hidden," she said. "They won't find us here, not yet." Ethan sat down, breathing hard. "That man, he's not human, is he?" No, she whispered. He's a collector, sent to take what I brought. He works for the high rings. The high rings. The ones who banished me. The ones who destroyed my home. Ethan saw sadness in her eyes. And something else. Pain. Then she pulled out another crystal. This one was bigger, deep purple, shaped like a teardrop. She looked at him. Do you really want to know the truth? Ethan nodded slowly. Lunari pressed the crystal to her own forehead, and the room around them changed. Flash. They were inside her memory now. The air was smoky, the sky purple. Alien buildings burned, soldiers ran through the streets. And in the middle of it all, Lunari. But she looked different, younger. Her face was covered in ash. She was holding something small, a baby, her baby. She ran through fire and falling glass. She was bleeding. She was crying. But she didn't stop. Ethan watched, frozen. Suddenly, a huge explosion hit behind her. She fell. The baby was thrown into someone's arms, a tall human soldier. That soldier looked down at the child, then back at Lunari, and disappeared into the smoke. Lunari screamed in the memory. No! Bring her back! The memory ended. Back in the real world, Lunari sat down on the cold floor. Her eyes were wet. Ethan sat beside her. That baby, he whispered. Was that? Yes, Lunari said. She's in the pod. Ethan looked shocked. You brought your child to Earth? She nodded. She was in stasis, a long sleep. I couldn't protect her in the war, but here, I thought she'd be safe. Ethan looked down. The human in the memory? He saved her? Lunari nodded again. I don't know who he was, but his eyes, they looked like yours. Ethan's heart beat faster. Then Lunari pulled out one last object, a thin bracelet made of alien metal. Before my daughter was taken, Lunari said softly, I placed this on her wrist. It was linked to my heartbeat. She gently touched the bracelet and it lit up. Beep, beep, beep. A soft signal. Ethan stared at it. It's beating, he whispered. She's alive, Lunari said, voice shaking. But the pod, it's breaking open too early. It's not safe. Suddenly, boom! A loud sound echoed above them. Dust fell from the ceiling. They found us, Lunari whispered. Ethan stood up. We need to move. But Lunari didn't move. She looked at him and said something he didn't expect. Ethan, if something happens to me, promise you'll protect her. Raise her like your own. She'll trust you. I've seen it in my dreams. Ethan couldn't speak, but he nodded. Even if it meant facing the collector again, even if it meant dying, he would protect Lunari's child. The mark on the human's chest. They didn't have much time. Ethan and Lunari climbed through an old service tunnel under the subway. Dust filled the air. Pipes dripped water. Every sound echoed like footsteps behind them. Lunari held the glowing bracelet close to her chest. Ethan's mind raced. A child in that pod, her child, and why did that baby's memory show him? Suddenly, Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He gasped and fell to one knee. Ethan! Lunari turned quickly. He clutched his shirt. His heart was pounding. But this pain wasn't normal, it was burning. He pulled his shirt open and Lunari froze. On his skin, just above his heart, was a glowing symbol. Small, but alien. Bright white lines forming a circle with 3 dots. It pulsed. Lunari stepped back, shocked. This can't be. Ethan looked at her. What is it? She spoke slowly, like she was afraid of her own words. That's the mark of the chosen guardian. What does that mean? It's an ancient symbol from my planet. It appears only when someone has been soul-linked, bonded to one of our kind. It's rare. Very rare. Ethan touched the mark. But I'm human. Lunari nodded. Yes, That's what makes it impossible. Unless what? Unless you were bonded. As a baby. Ethan's mind flashed back to the memory, the one Lunari showed him. The burning city. The soldier holding a baby. Was he the baby? Or had he been the one carrying the baby? No, Ethan whispered. This doesn't make sense. Lunari stepped closer. Ethan, your DNA, your memory, even your heart, something inside you is connected to my daughter, deeply. You were marked before you even knew me. Why me? He asked. Why not someone else? Lunari looked down. Because maybe the universe chose you, or maybe someone gave you the mark. Long ago. Suddenly the ground shook, a red beam cut through the tunnel wall, melting the metal. The collector was back. Run! Lunari shouted. But Ethan didn't move. He looked down at the glowing mark on his chest, and something inside him awakened. He felt stronger, calmer, as if something ancient had been sleeping inside him. He turned to face the beam as it tore open the wall. The collector stepped through, his body bigger now, transforming. His eyes were wild, glowing red. But this time, Ethan stepped in front of Lunari. The collector growled, You cannot protect them. Ethan's hand reached toward the wall, and to his shock, a glowing shield of light formed around them. Lunari gasped. You activated it, she whispered. The Guardian's barrier. The collector's eyes narrowed. You shouldn't exist, he hissed. You're only human, Ethan replied quietly. Then you've never met the right kind of human. The collector raised his hand to strike, but the tunnel shook again. This time, not from battle, from the pod. It was waking up. The hunter in the building. The tunnel exploded. Ethan grabbed Lunari's hand and pulled her through the smoke. Behind them, the collector's roar echoed like thunder. They reached the surface, stumbling into a half-destroyed building, an old library. Broken glass crunched under their feet. Books were scattered like fallen leaves. Lunari leaned against the wall, breathing fast. She clutched her chest. He's stronger now. He's not just a collector anymore. Ethan looked at her. What is he then? She looked up at him. A reaper. They're sent to erase bloodlines, to destroy all evidence of what shouldn't exist. Ethan felt a chill. Like your daughter? Lunari nodded. And anyone tied to her? Suddenly the air grew cold. The lights in the building flickered. A strange mist rolled in from the stairwell. He's here, Lunari whispered. A loud thump echoed through the building. Then another, and another. Steps. But not walking, hunting. Ethan grabbed a metal rod and held it tight. His hands shook, but he stood in front of Lunari. The collector's voice rang through the shadows. You're brave for a human, or foolish, Ethan yelled back. Maybe both. A shadow moved fast. Too fast. Glass shattered. Then silence. Ethan turned, but the collector was gone. Stay close, he whispered to Lunari. They moved toward the upper floors, but something felt wrong. The mist was alive. It moved with them, watching, waiting. Suddenly, Ethan saw something glowing ahead, the pod. It had teleported, called by Ethan's mark. It floated in the center of the room, pulsing. Lunari gasped. She's trying to reach us. Then the collector struck. He flew through the wall, grabbing Ethan and slamming him into the ground. Ethan cried out. Lunari screamed, her hands lighting up with blue fire. She threw a wave of energy, but the collector dodged, grabbing her by the throat. You were warned, Lunari, he hissed. You should have let her die. Ethan struggled to stand. Then, the pod pulsed, once, twice. Then it cracked. A soft cry echoed through the building. The collector froze. Lunari's eyes filled with tears. She's awake. The pod opened. Inside was a small alien girl. Her skin, soft blue, her eyes glowing like stars, weak, innocent, crying. Lunari whispered, "My child." But the collector moved fast, charging toward the baby. Ethan ran too. He didn't think. He just moved. He dove between the Reaper and the baby, raising his hands, and the Guardian shield exploded from his chest. The impact threw the collector. Across the room, Ethan picked up the crying baby and turned to Lunari. "She's real," he said. "She's alive." Lunari fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. But the fight wasn't over. The collector stood up, eyes burning. "This changes nothing," he growled. "She must die. All of you must." Then he vanished into the shadows. Ethan looked at the baby girl in his arms. She stopped crying. She touched his cheek and smiled. Lunari walked over and knelt beside him. Her voice broke as she said, "She remembers you." The pod opens at dawn. Dawn was breaking. Soft light poured through the broken windows of the old library. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Everything was quiet now. Too quiet. Ethan sat on the floor, holding the small alien child in his arms. She had stopped crying. Her head rested on his chest. Her glowing eyes were slowly closing. Lunari sat close, her hands trembling. She reached out slowly, afraid to touch. "Can I?" she whispered. Ethan gently passed the child into her arms. Lunari held her like she was made of light. Her hands shook, her lips trembled, and then, for the first time in many years, she wept. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She kissed her daughter's forehead. "I thought I lost you forever," she whispered. Ethan sat beside them. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The baby girl made a soft cooing sound. Her tiny fingers curled around Lunari's glowing braid. "She remembers your touch," Ethan said. Lunari smiled through her tears. "She remembers your heartbeat too." Then, the baby's skin started to glow. Her chest pulsed with the same symbol Ethan had on his body, the mark of the Guardian. Ethan leaned in. "She has it too?" Lunari nodded. "She chose you, even before she was born." Suddenly, the baby opened her eyes and looked at Ethan, and then she spoke, not with her mouth, but directly into their minds. Her voice was small, soft, pure. "He's coming again." Ethan's heart froze. Lunari looked up. She sees him. Then the baby's glow faded and she fell asleep again. Lunari held her close. "She's weak, too young to fight." Ethan stood up. "Then I will." "But you're human." Lunari started. "No," Ethan said, eyes firm. "I'm something more now. You said it yourself. I'm linked to her. I'm her guardian." A loud boom echoed outside. The walls shook. Books fell from the shelves. "He's back," Lunari said. "And he's bringing something else." They looked out the window. A large black ship hovered above the building. Strange figures, tall and armored, descended from it. Not just the collector this time. Hunters. 10 of them. Ethan turned to Lunari. "You need to run. Take her. Find a place to hide." Lunari grabbed his arm. "You'll die." Ethan smiled slightly. "Maybe, but she won't. And neither will you." Lunari looked at him, really looked at him. There was no fear in his eyes, only fire. "I won't forget you," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "And if I don't come back, tell her who I was." Lunari hugged him quickly, tightly. Then she disappeared into the stairwell with her daughter in her arms. Ethan walked back into the middle of the library. He picked up the metal rod again. His chest glowed. The mark on his skin burned like a star. Outside, the doors burst open. The hunters stepped in, silent and cold. And Ethan, just a human a week ago, now stood between a lost child and the monsters that wanted her gone. The human who became her family. The library stood still. Smoke drifted in the morning light. Outside, the sky burned orange. The black alien ship hovered above, humming like a giant beast. Inside, Ethan stood alone, between 10 alien hunters and the stairwell where Lunari had hidden with her daughter. He gripped the metal rod tighter. His chest glowed with the Guardian's mark. The hunters stared at him. No fear, no mercy. Only one purpose: kill the Guardian. Take the child, erase the bloodline. But Ethan didn't move. He remembered her little fingers on his face, her soft voice in his mind, and he remembered Lunari's tearful whisper. Tell her who I was. He wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for them. The first hunter charged. Ethan raised the rod, ready to die. But the moment the hunter touched him, boom! A shockwave burst from Ethan's chest, sending the hunter flying through a wall. The others hesitated. Suddenly, glowing, lines spread from Ethan's feet across the floor, ancient alien symbols. The building itself responded to him. Light pulsed from the cracks. The baby had awakened the Guardian power in him. Now it was fully awake. Meanwhile, below in the stairwell, Lunari held her daughter close. The child opened her eyes and whispered into her mind. He's protecting us, Lunari cried softly. I know, my star, I know. Back upstairs, the battle raged. Ethan fought like a storm. His body burned with energy. Every time a hunter got close, a shield would rise, a blast would push them back, or the rod would glow white-hot in his hands. But there were too many. Soon, the hunters began to trap him, surrounding him from all sides. Ethan fell to one knee, bleeding. His vision blurred. One last hunter raised his blade. Ethan looked up. He smiled. Because behind the hunter, Lunari stood there, and she wasn't alone. Her daughter stood beside her, eyes glowing, tiny hands raised. Together, mother and daughter unleashed a pulse of pure white light. The hunters froze, then disappeared, erased like shadows in sunlight. Silence. Ethan fell forward unconscious. Lunari ran to him, held him in her arms. You kept your promise. Her daughter crawled beside him, placed her small hand on his chest. The mark stopped glowing, then slowly pulsed again. He was alive. Later, they left the broken building together, Lunari, her daughter, and Ethan. They walked into the light of a new day. People watched them from windows, confused and amazed. A man carrying an alien baby, walking beside a glowing woman. No one stopped them. No one dared. Weeks passed. The government asked questions. Lunari gave them answers. Careful ones. Ethan didn't speak of the Reaper, the pod, or the Guardian bond. But something had changed. Not just in him, in all of them. One night, the baby reached for Ethan, saying her first word aloud. Dada. Lunari smiled, and for the first time, Ethan didn't correct her. He just held her close, because sometimes, family is not who you're born to. It's who you choose to protect. The end.